All right, welcome back. We're at episode 4 of Under the Bar. We're talking today to the assistant coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, Derek Lalonde. Derek is a fellow North Country native. As my dad would say, he's the mayor of the booming metropolis of Fraser. Uh, so Derek and I grew up maybe 5, 10 miles from each other. He's a little bit older than I am, but played with a lot of my friends, and we've got mutual friends, mutual teammates. So I've been following like his career for the last while, and we always like to see our fellow North Country brethren do well. So if you said, like, someone asked you when you first started coaching, like, you're going to be an assistant in the NHL, what's your answer? Like, are we crazy, or is that the plan?
No, yeah, I would have said you were crazy. I would say no chance, but it's probably been my approach with my coaching career is why I've gotten to the National Hockey League. Every job I ever took, from early on, my Division III days at Hamilton to my job at Fair State, then going to Denver, and then going down the head coaching path, USHL, ECHL, American Hockey League, now National Hockey. Every job I took to be there forever, and I mean that. And people, now that you're at the top, I don't know if it resonates or they believe when I make a statement like that, but it's just about living in the present and being the best you can at your current position. And I've literally done that, and it's bode very well for me. I think that's what's led me for my success. And I mean it. Like, anywhere I went, I wanted to be there, roots, raise a family, want to be part of a community. And the phone kept ringing. And this is where we're at now. And I'm taking the same approach now, living in the present. Very unique situation here. Obviously, we've got a really good team here at Tampa. We have a window where we can do something special. I hope to do something special. We all think we can do something special with this group. And I'm living in the present right now, and right now is getting prepared, hopefully, for a 2014 tournament, which we're in. So, yeah, I would have said you were absolutely crazy, but now it does make sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're very, prepared in what you do, and I mean, I think for up and coming coaches now, you can see the trend of, like, one, being a good communicator, and like you said, like, you're not going to use a place as a stepping stone, but that's like where you at is where you have to be, and like take pride in everything, learn the history. So one, to stick with Tampa, I read a little article before we got on about, obviously the disappointment of the playoffs last year, but I'm a big proponent of small games, and I saw, a couple of the clips that you did that's kind of how you guys were getting back to preparing was using those small games. And I'd like you to talk a little bit about the importance of those. Like, I'm a big fan. I know some parents him and haw about it, but like, I think the biggest point is, like, you have to have a purpose behind kind of what you're doing them. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm a huge component of the small games. I know you yourself, obviously playing at a high level, you were probably in that where you were experiencing it probably later in your career a little bit. And now you being on the development side, you probably see the benefits of it. I think I've been very fortunate that it's kind of been, I got introduced, going down the USA Hockey path. It's USA Hockey had big components, and then going down that college path. And being part of development path everywhere I've been, small ice games have been a huge part. What's been exciting for me is I think they've done small ice games here at Tampa, but Jeff Halpern and I came in together. We were both huge advocates of it. And we were very pushy as we rolled in the door on small ice games. And now just to see how even John Cooper, who is the top of his profession in the National Hockey League as a head coach, to see how he's come full circle, absolutely loves it now. We just had a Zoom call with Frölunda in the Swedish Elite League yesterday, and it was all small ice games. And it was really eye-opening, where a lot of ours are system development-based type things, and there's 100% all development. So to me, I think it's a reality of development. We do it for skill development. We do it for hockey sense development. And we do it for competitiveness too. But we also do it with some system and structure. For us, we think we're a team with skill, and we want to get our skill competing the right way at times. And we think small ice games force in it. And when you made the comment of small ice games for a purpose. Every small ice game we have is a purpose, and we have a theme small ice game for every practice habit day. If we have a D zone coverage day, we will end with a D zone coverage. We have a quick transition day, we'll end with a quick transition type game. So it's been huge. We're still growing in it. It's a big part of where hockey is and the growth of it. And I don't think it's going to end anytime soon.
Yeah, no, and it shouldn't. And I think obviously the more professional teams that are, one, using it, and two, proving, that it works, the proof is in the pudding. And I think your organization is a great example of it. I mean, in the last couple of years, there isn't a team that's, consistently just been there dominating and at the top of the league. I was going to see, things are so much different now than when we grew up playing. One, if you could pick a player on your team that had the hands like one of our old teammates, Mr. Tayo, who's got the silkiest mitts?
Well, that's funny. Like, obviously, us both playing with Mark, being able to play with Mark in college, he did have the silkiest toe. He was a little probably ahead of his time, especially at the Division III level, on just his skill set. To me, a lot of guys at this level have unbelievable hands and unbelievable skill set. But I know it sounds pretty obvious, but being around Cooch every day, Nikita Kucherov, his stick, his quick hands, but his ability to anticipate ahead of his next play is really something to watch. I mean, we've had times in the game where he'll do something on the ice, and Tyler Johnson is an NHL star. He's a $5 million NHL player. He'll look back at me, be like, Newsy, did he just do that? So there's guys that, but to me, on the other end of it, to see some guys grow with their skill set, to see how Anthony Cirelli has come with his skill set and his offensive confidence. And a lot of that was come through video, but of that small ice development. Even some of our even younger guys, Matthew Joseph or Carter Hagee, to see where they grow. You'd be shocked even at our level, and this might be a really good message for your development. I had a buddy come from Colorado and come to one of our morning skates, and we were literally working on just taking a puck off your backhand to your forehand. And these are NHL stars, and he was shocked at how basic some of our skill development. Of course, we have some elite drills and some puck protection drills and some quick support type things. But it's as basic as that sometimes. It's just backhand to forehand, being able to catch a puck on the backhand. To see some of our youth, Stevenson, watch him grow and just being able to take pucks off his backhand and make a quick play in the 3-4 months we've had in the National Hockey League. So Cooch is a special. I know I got off on a little rant right there, but just goes to show from A to Z at every level on where development is in this day and age.
So I want to get back to a little bit more of Mark and stuff in a bit, but while we're kind of on the current, I was fortunate enough, you took our team, I think it was 2 years ago, through, and we watched a pregame skate. I mean, like what you said to me was kind of your main job was to make sure that these guys were happy and confident. And, I've got kids that I made the mistake of thinking I was good enough and didn't need to keep developing, a few times in my career. And what you just said, like if you're not developing in the NHL, you're falling behind, right? And I mean, is that as like a good assistant? I mean, the attention to detail and just those little how many times in a game do you have the chance to go backhand, forehand, and shoot, right? Like when you're an NHL coach and you're bearing down on these little things and communicating with the players, like it just goes to show for the younger kids, like how much you have to do to even get there, right? Like they're in the spot in the NHL where it's you're either in or you're in the way. And, I think a good assistant makes the difference. And that's, probably why you guys have had some success with a lot of young players coming in, is the attention to detail with them in that transition.
It's a reality. I think today with the NHL salary cap, you have to develop from within, but you have to develop on the fly. You probably don't get the same time. Back in the day, you let guys marinate in the American Hockey League. When we have our young guys up, we're developing these guys to play every day, but also develop on the fly. And it's very personal for me with Carter Verhaeghe this year because I spent a lot of time with Carter. But we were to a point beginning of the year where we didn't know if Carter could even play in the National Hockey League. And his approach on his attention to detail with Jeff Halperin, the coaching staff, Mike Ellis, our skills coach, on getting his holes, puck protection holes, deception in his game offensively, his overall compete. To see someone like that come full circle and have to work on his game like he is. But even our elite guys, our Kucherovs, our Stamkoses, they are Hedmans. These guys are just wired. It's a new age where they have to continue to develop every day, and they do. I think what made me probably attractive into pro hockey and being a head coach in American Hockey League, even the assistant coach, is I came from a development background. So first and foremost, everything I did, yes, we're going to win. Yes, we're going to be competitive. But, when I was coaching in college, whether it was a Chris Kunis at Fair State or a Tyler Bozak at Denver, we're playing to win, but I'm playing to get these guys to the next level too. So you're constantly, I think there's a balance between development and winning, and I think both speed each other up, if that makes sense. And it's a reality.
Yeah. And so, I mean, and you were a goalie growing up playing too. I mean, you almost you have to become a student of the game to be successful, right? So coming out of a Brazier, when you were playing, we know you went to Cortland. Were there other schools interested at the time? What was the recruiting process like for you then?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're in a little bit of a bubble, being up in the North Country, probably not as aware that sometimes it's a reality that you probably have to seek. Obviously, you went beyond Messina. Zach went Bogosian, obviously went up in Ottawa and played even his minor hockey later into his junior hockey. I graduated in high school. I was 17 years old, and I was way too young. Clarkson, had teammates that were 21-year-old freshmen. You had 24, 25-year-old guys carrying your teams that were winning all the time, just a reality of it. And I kind of had that crossroads. I graduated 17. I got recruited by Cortland, and I wanted to be a physical education teacher. So I kind of had a vision of a path of what I wanted to do. And, not many kids at age 17 can say that. I wanted to be a physical education teacher and maybe a high school hockey coach. And it was right there for me in Cortland. Now, with that said, I was recruited to South Kent Prep School. And, to this day, I wouldn't say I'm kicking myself, but I talked to a few prep schools, but they're the ones that, and again, it's a niche being a goalie. They didn't have a goalie. They recruited me hard. Pat Martin, who's a teammate of mine at Cortland State, who's now the assistant athletic director at Kent, was already there. I also had some opportunity back in that day. Mickey Locke and Bill Plante, two renowned high school coaches in that area, took over a team in that Ottawa league. And right when I took over, so there's some opportunity there. And, I wonder what maybe I could have done in my development if I would have done that. But I had my path on what I wanted. I wanted to be gym teacher. It led me down the right path, an unbelievable experience at Cortland State. And it's probably led me early on to where I wanted to be. So it's an interesting crossroad. There's no right, wrong on development. And even my experiences, boy, I've seen guys that have come in at college at 20 years old that struggled to play in college, ended up being in the National Hockey League. Just talking about my choice of going to college at a young age. And this day and age, kids are freshmen in college. We talked about your teammates at Clarkson and guys you were playing against at the Division I level. There was freshmen 21 years old. There were seniors 24, 25 years old. And I had the opportunity at a prep school in South Kent, and then Bill Plant and Mickey Locke had taken over a team in that Ottawa junior league. And there was some opportunity there, but I had my path set. I wanted to be a physical education teacher. I went to Cortland. I majored in physical education, got a minor in science. I had my great, unbelievable hockey experience. And I just had a vision of what I wanted to be, and that's what I did. So it's always interesting that path and development and what may have been. Sometimes I do kick myself when I see other kids and when it kind of clicks for them and their development. And I see it all the time. There's guys that have come into college where I've coached, and they have trouble playing in college 4 years later in the National Hockey League. I've seen guys in the United States Hockey League as a 15, 16, 17-year-old kid that has struggled playing in that, and then they find their way into the National Hockey League in time. So it just clicks for different times. There's no secret recipe or formula on development. It's a process, and probably a really good lesson for your type of player you're developing, but it's been a good lesson for me in my career, even to this day, of having patience with some players. And I mean, look at someone personal like Sergachev on our team. Typical young D, we've asked a lot of him. I know he's the 6th pick overall. He was involved in a really blockbuster trade to come over to Tampa. But we talk about patience. There were some times we would be very frustrated as a staff, but we continued to let him grow. We continued to let him make mistakes. And the play he was giving us before the pause was world class. And it just goes to show at any level, at any time and point in development of hockey, it's just different for different people. And there's got to be some patience for it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Everyone's got different paths. I think a lot of people spend too much time worrying about opportunities other people are getting. Like you hit the nail on the head with the developmental path. Like, I think the self-confidence and awareness to be patient is probably the best quality a player could have right now.
Yes.
There's so much talent out there, and they don't get that it's not just about that anymore, right? Like as an NHL coach, like you're looking at all this talent, but like you've got to look at like what their upside's going to be. Are they going to be able to be a dynamic player? Are they going to hang around? Like, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? I mean, the patience and development, and I think even for you and I, like if it didn't come as players what we wanted, like your patience in the system like has put you in a situation that anyone that's ever stepped in the game would envy, right? And I think a lot of it, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like when you were at Cortland, that core group of like friends, Coach Lehman, Tayo, and then when you get Tayo, you get the entire Messina community behind you, and then especially being from there, I think it's like the biggest things I've taken out of the game. I don't look back and remember a championship or a goal so much as my friends and like what type of community that we provide in hockey. It's we run with the same crowds at different times, you and I, but even looking back, I want to bring up after you left Cortland, it was like some risky moves kind of for you at that point, wasn't it? Like that.
Yeah, that's a great point, Reader. They seemed risky at the time, but again, it was always about growth for me in my profession, in my development as a coach. I probably hit that crossroads when I was at Hamilton College, and that, now I'm 24, 25 years old. I went out, I've got an undergraduate in physical education. I've got a master's now in education administration.
Was that from North Adams?
Yep, Massachusetts College, North Adams. So I've prepared myself with the tools. I call them, those were my weapons. I became educated, and I still had that vision of being a physical education teacher, a high school hockey coach, and then maybe going down an administrative route. And it seemed like a very exciting path for me. When I was at Hamilton, I was probably at that time where, I've had opportunities to fulfill that dream or that goal of what I wanted. But when you get into coaching, there's something that draws you, the competitiveness of it, the growth of it. You kind of get attached to it. And then, probably the call that probably changed my life was Bob Daniels' calling from Ferris State. Being at coaching at Hamilton, we would recruit the Ottawa, Toronto area. So I got the lay of the land in those areas. And then Ferris was intrigued by it. They see me on the road, you build relationships. Jeff Blashill actually left Ferris State to go on to Miami, Ohio. I filled in there. And then I spent my time at Ferris, loved it there. The phone rang again. It was University of Denver, George Gwozdecky. Unbelievable experience again. Felt very fortunate to work under Bob Daniels and George Gwozdecky, two renowned human beings. I mean, I still to this day, if those two were CEOs of a company, they'd be the most successful company, just how they managed and ran things. But I guess kind of where that risk came about is I knew I had to become a head coach, wanted to become a head coach, and I took the head coaching job in Green Bay. Turned that into a championship. We had a ton of success there. In 3 years, we won a ton. And the risk probably came. I've always just kind of was thinking about going down the college route. I'd heard from college teams if there was a head coaching job available in college when I was in Green Bay, I'd probably had heard from them. And I wasn't saying I was being selective because I know those jobs are special. They're very hard to come by, but I was looking for a job, again, very content. I could have been at Green Bay forever. The ownership group and the unique situation, a great community. I was kind of just waiting on a college that I could be successful out. And then the Red Wings called. Ryan Martin called. And this is probably, I would say, probably the biggest risk in my career, in that they wanted to improve their ECHL team in Toledo. They knew that with today's salary cap, you had to build within, and they needed to start taking the ECHL really serious as far as NHL development. We could get 5, 6, 7 contracts down. And I never really thought about pro hockey. And then I looked at, so they were in last place. They were in disastrous last place, 20, 30, 35 points out of a playoff spot. But it was such a unique professional town. After they approached me, I would follow them a little bit. They'd have a Sunday night game late in the year, and there were 7,000 people in the stands. So I guess the intrigue of being able to turn that around, which was a good challenge for me. And then the fact that Detroit gave me an open door policy to Mike Babcock in Detroit, that's all I needed. And so people looked at that as a little bit risky, but for me, it was just growth. And I had some general managerial background in the United States Hockey League. I felt I could turn Toledo around while still growing as a coach, and that turnaround would be the growth in itself. And we improved 59 points that year. It's a pro record. It'll probably never be beat because it's tough finding teams that bad.
Yeah.
To improve that much. But it looked like a risk. People ask me about that one move all the time. I'm not saying being a head coach in the American Hockey League or obviously being an assistant in the National Hockey League, there's of course there's risk in that, but that was the one move where people were like, they kind of tip their hat and they have an appreciation for that type of move. But to me, it wasn't risk because it was all about growth. And no matter what, I knew my time in Toledo, I was going to become better. And that's exactly what happened.
So it's funny. I mean, even in coaching, if you know, with your experience and your mindset, have an idea of what works, then it isn't a risk because, I mean, you're just incorporating stuff that you've seen, that you know. The one question I have, and it's probably a more personal question than anything, is like, how do you approach those interviews? Like, even say Tampa, for instance, like when you go to sit down for that assistant coaching job, who's in the room? You know what I mean? How many guys are you competing with? Is those kind of things are, to me, it's like I have an idea. I've never had a job interview, really.
Well, it's kind of been at different levels. It's and there's always growth in those. I remember interviewing with Bob Murray, the general manager of the Anaheim Ducks, for the San Diego job. And I literally flew into Anaheim for 2 days, and I basically sat by my phone for the 1 hour he was ready for me. And then I go in there in the 1 hour, and it's filled with 6 guys. And Bob is a no nonsense. He's very intimidating type guy. And basically he's like, okay, how can you make us better? How can you make this organization better? And so there's different. I went down the interview path with Ottawa, where I do 2 Zoom calls very similar to this, and then I get into a final situation. Now I meet with Pierre, and we get right down to 2 guys. That was a lengthy kind of type of situation. They go in a different direction. I get a phone call at 11 a.m. that they're going a different direction for their head coach in Binghamton. And then Minnesota called an hour later. And a week later, I'm the American Hockey League head coach. The Tampa thing, it was Coach Cooper, one of his assistants. And he sent me an assignment sheet beforehand. We need to improve our D zone. We need to improve our penalty kill, 2 areas. We're going to need you to turn around for us. This is Toronto's power play. Come bring me a pre-scout. This is Boston's power play. Come give me a pre-scout. Where are holes in our game? And then, very intimidating. Then I go meet with Steve Yzerman. And there's very few people I've been kind of intimidated. Meeting Wayne Gretzky once, I was kind of wowed. But when Steve is grilling you, and, legit questions. You've never played at this level. How is player X, Hedman, going to react to you? How is Cooch going to react to you? Very intimidating, but I was prepared, and it was easy.
You know what I mean? Like, some players, most of them are smart enough to realize, like, why you're a coach there. But have you ever had that where someone was like,
no, and it's a great question because it's a reality. And I myself respect guys that play at the highest level. Every staff I've been on, I've wanted to surround myself with guys that played at that high level. When I was in the American Hockey League, it was important for me to get an assistant that played in the National Hockey League and the American Hockey League. When I was in Toledo, my assistant, Dan Watson, it was important for me. He played at that level. To me, being around Jeff Halpern, 1,000 games here, that was important. So people ask this question a lot because there's people like me that didn't play at a high level. I would love to get into coaching and going down a path. And what you do is you turn yourself into immediately, you're initially the guy that didn't play at that level. Then you turn yourself into the person that knows what he's doing and knows what he's talking about. And that's when guys can see, we're going to make you better. I'm going to make you better. I turn into that guy, well, he never played, to this guy knows what he's talking about. And that's your job to do that. And the one thing I'm going to touch on that I've been very fortunate, and I think it's a little bit of my roots of growing up in the North Country. I've always been a relationship-based guy. And I was very fortunate to start a path in college where relationships are everything. I'm sitting talking to a 16-year-old, Jason Zucker, telling him to come to the University of Denver. And I'm looking his dad in the eyes, and I'm going to take care of you. And there's just a bond, and there's something about the relationship. And you're in college. You yourself, I guarantee you can remember the day you were offered a scholarship at Clarkson, who it was from, and what that relationship is about. It's just a relationship-based approach I've always had. And now that kid comes into Ferris, that kid comes into Denver. I care about that kid. And it's a relationship. It's a bond. I draft a kid in Green Bay. He's 16 years old. I'm pulling him away from his parents. Dad drops him off. He's tearing up. It's a relationship. I take care of that kid. So I was fortunate enough when I went on to pro hockey, I still had a relationship-based approach because that's all I knew, and it was natural. You know yourself, your time in the American Hockey League, even your time in the ECHL, that's not always the case. And the coaches don't see it the same way as that relationship. Teammates don't see it in that relationship. And that's just who I've always been. I've brought that. My young guy, like Tony Cirelli gets run over in a game, I'm mad. It hurts. Alex Killorn gets elbowed in a cheap shot like that. It hurts. Like, I've always been that guy where I've established relationships and I've cared about, and it's just bode very well for me. I think that's the number one thing I've brought with me, and it's the number one thing I can give any young coach on advice. It's about relationships, but true relationships.
That's, that hits home. It really does. There were times in my playing career, that's all I needed. Like, that's it. You know what I mean? Was someone just to give a shit, right?
Yes.
And, I'm the same way with my kids now. It's like, I don't want to see them go through anything they don't have to. That's part of getting back into it. And you talk about relationships, like, we've got a pretty special one. Our friend Mark that you played with, that I played with, passed away a few years ago. Even his, I've talked to Janess. I believe there's a stat. He's been to every one of your season openers since you started.
Amazing relationship. Yeah, for sure.
And one more thing I had to bring up. Tom Post had one goal in his college career. Yes.
That is a fact. Unfortunately, I still think it was tipped on the way in, but his celebration, 3-3 late in the third period, I'm like, why is he even on the ice? And he actually just wired one, and it beat me over my shoulder. God, we still have some laughs, but you talk about relationships. I'm a small town guy from Brazier Falls, New York. I'm so proud of growing up in the North Country and the relationships we had. It's unique having that North Country background and upbringing. Going to Cortland and having that relationship. I played with both Tyos, and having that relationship with Mark ended up that opening up those relationships with the Messina crew, and some of my closest relationships to this day have been about that. And even getting Zach Bogosian, acquiring him, and having a previous relationship with Zach. There's a uniqueness Zach and I have, knowing we're from the North Country, and it's just so unique. And I've known Ike. I probably had a better relationship with Aaron, but knew Zach going on. There's a bond there that you understand and you describe. And I feel very fortunate that I grew up in the North Country and I have these relationships, and those relationships has really prepared me well in life. It's very unique. It's really hard for people to understand, but it's a special place, and I'm very proud of being from that area.
Having those, like, they're still my best friends in the world. I don't get up home as much as I'd like to, but you mentioned Zach, and as a guy on the outside looking in, I was amazed that he went through waivers. And as soon as I saw, you guys picking him up, I was like, of course, like, if anyone's going to know what this kid has to offer, it's you, right? The kid's 6'5", 230, just a mule. I'm excited to see, what he can do with your team, and kind of, he brings a ton of experience, and I don't think he's as big a name as he kind of should be. He's had some injuries and stuff that have set him back a little bit, but I'm excited. It's in kind of a new beginning for him there, and I'm sure he's stoked to be down there.
I give our management team credit. There was a little bit of that relationship, and I got Coach Cooper excited about it. And to our management team's credit, they saw the vision of it and how it could make sense. And he did a great job for us when he came in. And I know last year we obviously had a very special season. We won 62 games. We set a National Hockey League record, something I'll never take for granted. It's something I'll always have. I'm very proud of. But the sting of that playoff loss, shame on us in a lot of areas. But the fact that Hedman went down that series, the fact we lost Strawman, the fact Girardi was hurt, we were a shell of our decor that had us all those success earlier. And we didn't want to make that mistake again this year. And I give our team credit that depth was important on the decor. And Zach came in, was awesome. And Zach is unique in that, knowing Zach for a long time and having those North Country roots, I'm his coach. I'm teaching him, I'm coaching him, but I'm rooting for him too.
Yeah,
if he was with us when he plays in Buffalo, I root for him. So it's just a unique situation. It's very neat just to have someone from the North Country in that room. And man, it's going to be hard to do. It's one of the hardest things ever to do. But if we can ever bring that cup back to the North Country, we would put the keeper of the cup to a true test in those 24, 48 hours there for sure.
Dude, I just started thinking about some of the possibilities that you know what I mean? And I couldn't honestly think of two better people to bring that cup up north. You guys have got, a very small part of the world, but a big part of hockey that are going to be pulling for you this year. So there's one more thing I do want to get to that I think will be the most important part of this whole story is, so you donated something really nice to the Mark Tile Foundation a couple years ago. It was an autographed Gordie Howe jersey right before he passed away, right?
Awesome, yes.
So it was funny. John Paul was telling me that, and when I was maybe 14, I went to a tournament in Detroit, the Showdown in Motown, and Travis Howe, his grandson, was playing with us. So him and Mark Howe were our coaches. And my dad was like, do you realize, who's going to be coaching this weekend? And I was like, Dad, like, you've talked to me about Gordie Howe a million times, of course. And he's like, you better play good. It was funny, though, when I went on the bench, like, they weren't just there to, like, show a name. Like, they were all over us. You know what I mean? And to have, like, Gordie Howe telling me to get my shit together, I was just like, yeah, okay. No problem. But so before Mark passed away, he had passed on a tie for good luck to you. Can you give us a little insight?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to touch on both those stories if you have time.
I would, absolutely.
One, the Gordie Howe was such a unique, obviously Mark had passed away, and obviously a really good friend, crushing, knowing him as a personality. And we haven't experienced things like that at such a young age. It was nothing short of devastating. And wanted to do something for the golf outing. And when I'd lived in Toledo, his son, Marty Howe, lived in the same neighborhood I did. He was a doctor. And I started thinking I was able to meet Gordie a couple times, either at a rink, at a Red Wing games, or literally around town. He would just go to the local rink in Toledo and just hang out. It was his get out of the house type thing. It was really neat. He grabbed my daughter once. She's played at a young age by the face mask, pretended to start fighting her. Just a type of personality. And obviously he was deteriorating with his health. So I thought of the number 9, the Gordie Howe, and I know Gordie wasn't doing very well. And so the Red Wings were nice enough to donate the jersey, and I gave it to Marty, and Marty stopped taking those requests. It's just because Gordie, unfortunately, was not doing very well. And I told him the story, and he's like, I love that story. He goes, give me the jersey. And he goes, it's going to take some time, literally, for Gordie to sign it, just to have the health of that particular day to sign it. And about 2 weeks later, he texts me, and he's like, Dad had a really good day today, and he signed the jersey. Come grab it. And it was just really touching. And again, unfortunately, Gordie passed away shortly after that. I don't know if it was one of his last autograph or was. It very well could be. And again, I don't know, and I don't care to know. It's just special that one of Gordie Howe's one of his last things is he thought about our buddy Mark. And
that's amazing.
And signed a jersey for it. And so that was just a neat story. And I know I think Mark or Jeff just reacquired that. cost him a little bit, and it should have, but he just required it from the person that actually bought the first time at Mark's outing. But the tie was a unique situation. So Mark had passed away, and obviously being in the coaching profession and knowing Stacy, and I just text Stacy, and I'm like, you know what, I know Mark had awful taste. Like, you could only wear a Ralph Lauren shirt so much and call it style. I think there's 3 different Ralph Laurens, but I'm like, Stacy, I would love a tie, just something to have him with me at times and remind me of him. And John Paul was there. She gave it to John Paul. And so they got me the tie. And that was during that year, Nate Lehman, who is the head coach of Providence, him and Mark were best of friends. The 3 of us were very tight relationship. And Mark, as well as Mark and his company, his business were doing, he loved what we did. Like, he knew more about my team than I did.
Yes.
And Jeff would laugh all the time. Jeff's like, I couldn't get any work out of him this week. He was going over every stat, Providence, and whatever team you're coaching at the time. So I had the tie, and I just thought about it. So I sent the tie to Nate and didn't tell him about it. I just put a note in it. Said, hey, this is Mark's tie. Do what you want with it. But I'm going to need this back after your NCAA tournament. So he wore it for game 1 of the NCAA tournament, an unbelievable run. They end up winning the entire national championship. And obviously in Providence, they've never done it. It's a program that has a losing team 2 years earlier. And what it meant to him and I in that whole relationship. So then he sent it back. And I just talked about in Toledo how we were in last place. And I wore it every single playoff game. And we went from never making the playoffs for a 4 year run to we won game 7 versus Wheeling. We won game 7 versus Fort Wayne. And then we ended up losing the conference final to your South Carolina boys in game 7. But it was unbelievable. So now I wear that tie every home opener and every first playoff game I have. So when we start back up in this next playoff, once the round of 24, the play-ins happen, where we're getting that first round, I'll have that tie on in that first game. So it's pretty neat. It's something that makes me feel really good. It's just a neat story. The fact that Nate has won a national championship with it. And if we are ever lucky enough to win a Stanley Cup, I'll have that tie on. It's a pretty neat story.
Buddy, you just made my heart hurt a little bit. I can remember watching that national championship game, and I mean, we all knew, like, I talked to Janess quite a bit, and I knew they were all there. And the fact that he was wearing it, like, I had pretty much a whole room of people that didn't know Mark in tears, letting them know, kind of what happened in that situation. But
so Nate, to this day, if you remember, Providence tied the game with a 100-foot flip-in in the third period. And Nate, to this day, he still claims that was Mark. And even after, when they won, David Quinn was the head coach of BU, who's now the head coach of the Rangers. Nate, that's what he told Quinner after the game. He's like, hey, great run. I mean, David Quinn's devastated. They had a chance to win a national championship. They had a 1-goal lead late in the third period. And he's like, I can't tell you. It's just, you didn't have it. Like, Mark, my buddy, won that for us. And it seemed like an odd conversation. David's like, that's what you're telling me after we lost right now. But how neat it was. And Nate, to this day, still believes that. So it's just really neat story.
I think there is. I mean, when you get in a game like that as a coach, I mean, I haven't been in anything near it as a coach, but I still get like goosebumps in the championship of a 16-year-old tournament. If you can get your mind on something bigger, because there's nothing you're going to do in that second. You know what I mean? You're probably almost going to overcoach. But like, I think the fact that he was kind of relying on something a little bit bigger than the game made it, just all that much more enjoyable to win.
Absolutely. We still talk about Mark, and the odd text exchange will go around. We still have some great photos around. It's very healthy.
Yeah.
It's awesome. And it's just a unique situation. So.
Well, I'd like to maybe in the next, after the season, we got to figure out something we can do for the organization. I want to do a little bit more, but I think, we could get a pretty big gesture.
Yep, absolutely. Always up for
Something
anything.
else. Buddy, I can't thank you enough. I think this has been probably one of the better talks that we've had. We've covered a ton of different things. And, the one thing I keep trying to tell my players, and it was a lot of things I didn't even practice when I was playing, is like, just be a good teammate and think about your legacy.
Yes.
Right? Like what 10 years down the road, because we're not all lucky enough to stay in the game. You know what I mean? Like for some people, the game's over after high school. For some people, they'll continue to coach at a small level, or it's going to be about, like you said, what relationships you make along the way, how people kind of remember you. And it's not about us, right? Like it's about developing, about making the kids kind of get through it a little easier than we did. And I think you're just a great example of like what's possible when you put your mind to something, to go from, I think starting out a program at Lebanon, all the way up through to coaching at the Lightning. I mean, what a great run. Like you got so many people proud of you, but we're cheering you on all the way.
No, there doesn't go a day I don't appreciate the fact that's where I'm at. I pinch myself often. But it's probably a lesson learned even as a player. It's a process, and it never felt like work. It was always about growth and getting better. And to this day, I'm all about that, and will continue to be. I'm very proud of my path, but I'm also proud of the path because of I've seen what it's done for a lot of people. My hometown in Brazier, how inspiring it is. All my mentors, every football, hockey, baseball coach I've ever had have come to a National Hockey League game and kind of experienced it with me. So hopefully this is just the start of the journey too, and there's going to be a lot more ahead.
We're looking forward to it. We'll definitely be following you. And any coaches out there that are looking to kind of move up the ladder, like this is someone you should probably listen to, talk to. He's done it, living it, loving it. We're going to wish you the best. Derek, thank you so much. It's been a good little hour here, and I hope this gets out to the people that need to hear it. And again, we'll come up with something nice maybe for next year for the Tile Foundation, something big we can get back.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me, Reader. It's always great catching up. I love I love your approach, by the way, with your development. You're going about it right. We've crossed paths a couple times. I love when you brought your high-end team there to Tampa. I love it. That's what it's about.
Those kids still talk about that to this day. Like I don't coach them anymore, but when I see them, do you remember that time? And I'm like, of course I remember. I was just as excited as you were. One of my good friends in there with a Tampa shirt on. Like that makes it even better. But yeah, no, this has been perfect, dude. Hopefully we'll be doing a post Stanley Cup show, and then we'll be talking about how the playoffs went and how you got there.
I hope so.
To sipping a little champagne out of the cup, though. You get that thing up north, and we might have to bring in the National Guard to make sure it stays safe.
Well, I've already got the itinerary. I've said this before. There's a rated G, a rated PG, and a rated R version for the Stanley Cup. You probably want to be around, and I'm sure most of our Messina buddies will be around for the rated R version.
Yeah, well, Janess won't have any clothes on, so we're definitely going to have to wait until that point. And he came down, the whole party came down to visit me in Charleston for Ramsdale's, I think it was his bachelor party for his wedding. And we had a great time. We went all through like Sullivan's Island, went through, everywhere. And we ended up in one of my friend's bars, and about 5 minutes into being in the bar, I looked over and Janess is just standing there butt naked.
I've experienced it. I've seen it.
We've all seen it. This was like 15 years later. You know what I mean? But I guarantee if that cup is in Messina or Brazier, He will be naked.
It'll be mandatory, actually. It's part of the itinerary.
It'll be worth it.
Yes.
Well, go get us a cup, buddy. We're all cheering for you. Yeah, you and Bogo bringing one. All right, we're going to try something new here. We've got Derek Lalonde on the hot seat. I had a few college teammates that requested a few questions that we asked them. So we're going to ask them some about 5 or 10 quick questions. Put you on the hot seat, Coach.
Oh, geez.
Did you ever lose a beer chugging contest to a girl?
That's a fact. Yes, I have. There's a sorority girl back in Cortland that ran my show, much to the amusement of many of my buddies.
And I'm pretty sure you can chug a beer. Okay. Did you ever have a fire in the middle of your living room?
Another fact. Obviously, was not the cause of it, but I was very involved in the putting out of the fire. So kind of a hero in that situation.
All right. How did you get the nickname Newsy?
Great question. Obviously, Newsy Lalonde is the NHL Hall of Famer. It's actually from Cornwall, actually. So maybe, obviously, it's a very common name across the border, Cornwall, through that valley through there. So probably after that, but Chad Cassie says I look like a Newsy. So it's kind of just stuck, and everyone at this level in the National Hockey League, they know me as Newsy.
That's great. And I knew you as Kisser. How'd you get that nickname?
Yeah, I think it was a teasing playground thing when I was a kid, like kiss her. And it's stuck. To this day, people in my hometown, they don't know me. They don't even know who Derek is. It's just Kisser.
Oh, it is, yeah. No, anyone I mention, I'm talking to Lalonde, they're like, oh, how's Kisser doing?
Yes.
And there was a rumor, you got the Male Athlete of the Year award at St. Lawrence one year?
You know what? That's false. So obviously I had a lot of success as a team, being for St. Lawrence. We had a team that won a Section 10 title in baseball, hockey, and football. But I got carried by Jason Felix. I was the quarterback. I just hand the ball off to him or do 2-foot little passes, and he would do all the work, and my stats look great. So, yeah, that's false. It was Jason Felix.
All right. Well, Jason, little shout out for you. Were you late to your wedding for some reason?
That is also true. We were in a heated extra innings wiffle ball. It was a little tradition, me and my teammates. It was me, Rob Schelling, and Mark Tayo. It was a 3-team, and we were in extra innings, and we obviously had to finish. Funny story. So Jeff Blashill is now the head coach of the Red Wings. We were friends then, and he didn't know me well. He knew me on a professional basis, but didn't know. He couldn't understand why everyone was cheering against Schelling, Tayo, and I so much every pitch. And obviously, I don't take my wins very well. I'm a little over the top with some of my victories. He couldn't believe why everyone was rooting against me, and later to find out he knows. So, yes, I was late because the wiffle ball game went extra innings, and I got an absolute earful from my mom-in-law about it.
I'm sure. Wait, listen, wiffle ball's a big deal. So you've got a history of playing cards, like I heard at Cortland, and maybe weren't so good at a card game on Wilson Hill.
I claim I only play cards with my teammate Rob Schelling, who's now actually the high school coach of Suffern hockey. He's had a really good career as a coach there. Yeah, we were teammates, and I guess it's who you ask. To him and I, we were the best that's ever played, but unfortunately, we were on the bad side at times. And yeah, the odd have to do this, have to do that. I have done. I think that much Wilson Hill was.
Did you have to jump in a neighbor's pool?
It was the neighbor's pool, but it might even been like a lap around a buoy too. I think I've had done both there too. But being the good competitor I am, I did it. So that's fact also.
Hey, that brought us through a couple of a little bit of embarrassing moments, but for me, it makes the legend of Lalonde that much better.
That was well researched, actually. I'm pretty impressed with some of those questions.
Thank Jeff Tile for that one. As soon as we got done talking, I got a text like, you've got to ask him these questions. So
Hilarious.
again, the hot seat, it worked out well. We learned a little bit more about Coach Lalonde that we didn't get in the original interview. And I thank you for it, pal. That was awesome. I'm going to do that.
Awesome. Thanks, Reader.
Appreciate you, buddy. Take care.
See ya.